Welcome to Higher Insights. I'm your host, Albrecht Heyer. Today we'll be talking about balancing hormones for women with yoga with our guest, Leigh Evans.
Hi, Dr.
Welcome back to our show.
I'm so happy to be here again.
Thank you.
It's a great pleasure.
Now, we are talking about balancing hormones for women with yoga. There are various yoga postures and that we can use, that can be used for everything in the hormonal cycle.
Yes.
So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Okay. I would love to. It's actually one of my great areas of interest in sharing with women the specific practices that can be helpful for them during their monthly cycle. And also sharing with people, for women who are in menopause and postmenopause, helpful yoga practices to nourish them at that stage of life. With yoga being so popular now, and the majority of people taking classes are women, really, you know, in a typical yoga class we have 20 people, say. 18 are women, 2 are men. And the culture now for yoga is a very fast-paced, often really aggressive yoga practice that's continuous, you know.
Yeah. And that has its disadvantages, I think.
That has its disadvantages at certain times.
Because, you know, rather than actually, because originally yoga was part of the therapy, which was when you went to an Ayurvedic practitioner. I mean, after the herbs and so on, also they gave you specific yoga postures that goes with your particular program, with your particular healing program. That's totally out of the window here. I mean, here it's more like an exercise, which is not at all. And by that we are actually losing the whole prospect of what yoga really is, unfortunately. And so this fast pace, I think, is actually increasing the whole adrenal function in the body more, and yet not bringing in a state of balance.
That's exactly what, exactly the issue that we see. And I think the thing to understand for women and also for men is that there's a wonderful time to do that kind of fast vinyasa, very sort of yang energy practice,
Right.
but just not all the time, you know.
Right.
And I think this is the thing that people need to understand, is that there's a time for everything.
Of course.
You know.
Yeah.
And for women, it's particularly depleting for their essential feminine energy, which in Ayurveda is called Shakti, Shakti Prana. The prana is the life force.
Right.
And to do that kind of fast-paced, really heating practice when you're on your menstrual cycle actually really depletes you.
Right.
So a lot of what where we start with people is really with the menstrual practice, because a lot of the newer yogis, yoginis really, the female practitioners, don't know what is helpful for them at that time. And so they're menstruating and they're like, well, I want to go to class, but the only classes really that are offered are these fast-paced classes that, you know, emphasize constant movement, emphasize really strong upper body strength, emphasize inversions and back bends and really things that heat people up, which is wonderful to do at other times. But when you're menstruating, actually, you need to rest.
I think you need to rest at various other times also.
Yes.
That it's not only that, we have to create a state of balance.
Exactly.
And if at work and everywhere else everything is fast-paced, and then at the time you are supposed to bring the body back in harmony, you are still being fast-paced.
Yes.
you're missing out.
You are missing out.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's a cultural issue, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's a larger thing than just, we have this compulsion to keep going because our culture, that's what we are rewarded for, really. And
well, it's a good thing they cannot do yoga with texting.
yeah, well, people bring in their cell phones, and I'm like, get that thing out of here.
Right, exactly. Right.
So, but it's particularly interesting because really most of the people who are practicing are women, and there are men too, of course. And we love to have them in the classes, and I wish more of them would come.
To get it, first of all, men quite often have this attitude that, no, yoga is something more for women. And
yeah.
It's not their type of exercise. There would be weightlifting and all those type of things. But to get into the inner self, that's the last thing that they want to think of. Because it's all for show off, also building up muscles and all those type of things. But yoga is not about.
Right.
So then it's, well, it's mainly for women.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think what happens actually a lot is that men are used to being, stronger, more physically agile, than women. I'm being completely generalizing here, but I think what happens a lot of times is the men come into a class, and it's primarily women, and the men are tight. Mm-hmm. Their body structure is made differently. They tend to be super tight. Mm-hmm. So they come into class and they're in the physical realm, and they think I'm going to flourish here. I'm going to shine here. I'm used to shining in a physical place. And they come to class, and then there's this woman, all the women seem to have no problem, and the guys are like shaking and they're really tight, and it's hard, it's really hard. I feel for them because it's tricky. It's very tricky for the ego. And I so welcome men into the class, and I think yoga can really help men, actually.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're really tight. They need it, And they also need, like everyone, they need this balance. They need this time of internal reflection, and yoga is really meant for that. That's one of the great gems. So they need a quieter practice as well as an active practice. And in our teacher training, we really emphasize this thing of specific practices that is helpful at specific times. Specific practices, specific times of the year. Yeah. And the reason why we work, spend a lot of time with women is because there's really specific things to do throughout the month.
Absolutely, because it's a 28-day cycle.
Yes.
In which, as a matter of fact, basically there's one yoga system that you have a particular posture for every day.
Oh, wow.
And also the positions of the moon and the stars. And so, it's so varied. I mean,
yes.
It's really that you can use it for every single day, every single thing in life.
Yes.
Whether you're going to a performance or whether you're just going to have dinner.
Yes.
There are particular postures that you can take before that for whatever you're going to do to be more beneficial to you.
Yes. And I think the thing that people need to really understand is that, in Ayurveda, in Chinese medicine, in yoga, what we're looking for is balance.
Yeah.
We're looking for equanimity. We're looking for a state of peacefulness, a state of groundedness, and a state of ease.
But that's all through healing. Whether we are talking about Ayurveda, Tibetan medicine, Japanese medicine, but also the Incas and the Mayans, and so it's the same thing. How do we establish a state of balance? And no matter where you go, it's only when you get into Western medicine that you're facing this suppression type of thing where you have to suppress every single symptom, but not create a state of balance. So And then of course that continues generation after generation, because the only thing they know is nobody would think, for instance, to do a yoga posture to get rid of a headache.
Although it could be really beneficial.
Very beneficial. No, they go look for a pill.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do anything except suppress the condition that they're in.
Right.
So,
but I think it's because culturally that's what people learn.
Mm-hmm.
If culturally the yoga or the healing field was more prevalent, that they can do things with their lifestyle, with the food they eat, with herbs, with yoga practice, with meditation, with mudra, with chanting. If that is brought more forward, then people, if it's valued.
Right.
But I think our culture, it's really about fast, quick, get the result at all costs in a certain way. And I think this is the thing that we have to understand, that the yoga practice can offer us, is this sort of portal into a healthier way of being.
Such as with the hormones.
With the hormones, yeah.
Right.
So like for women, they have serious hormonal shifts throughout the monthly cycle.
Yeah.
The first half of the cycle, it's producing estrogen to to create the egg and create the conducive situation for the egg to grow and all this. And then if it's not fertilized, then the second half is more progesterone. Right, laden. So the first half is estrogen. It's building, and then the progesterone is the second half. And with the progesterone half of the cycle, we go into a more internal state, a more reflective state, a more a little bit withdrawn state. It's a perfect time to nourish your intuition and your dreams, really cultivate your dreams. Wonderful time to meditate. But our lifestyle, our culture doesn't value that so much. So women, they're going through this hormonal shift, but their lives are demanding that they're constantly active, that they're constantly out there producing, so that when every cell in their body is telling them to rest, withdraw, replenish, like when you're menstruating, you just want to rest, really. But it's like the world won't allow that. So you shove it down and you take Midol, you take whatever, and you just carry on. And so you're creating a real disconnect with where you are constantly. Like every month, you're not listening to your physical body, for your emotional body, to your hormonal needs, and this really takes a toll. This depletes the woman's essential energy, And
you're not listening to your spirit.
And you're not listening to your spirit.
Right. Well, Leigh, we have to take a short break for our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Okay.
NutriPharma wants to welcome you to its state-of-the-art holistic pharmacy, conveniently located at 6 East 46th Street between 5th and Madison Avenue. NutriPharma is unique and represents one of the most comprehensive and advanced nutritionally oriented compounding pharmacies in the United States. In NutriPharma, you'll find one of the largest selections of vitamins, minerals, herbal extracts, homeopathic remedies, aromatherapy essences, Ayurvedic formulas, and hard-to-get specialty nutrient supplements. NutriPharma's courteous and professionally trained staff is always ready to answer all your questions. Whether you need just basic nutrients or advanced formulas, NutriPharma can fulfill all your needs. Visit NutriPharma today and enjoy one-stop shopping for all your supplements. Or call NutriPharma today at 212-983-8291.
Welcome back to Higher Insights. As you know, today we are talking about the use of yoga for hormonal conditions with our guest, Leigh Evans. Well, we were talking about all these various cycles and so on, but let's talk about another area. First of all, let's show some of these practices that you are using. We have some pictures that you're using for these type of conditions, for these specifically women type of conditions. The first picture that we're seeing now on the screen, what does that indicate?
This is one of my classes. We're doing some restorative practices in partners, and all these poses that we'll see, you can do with props. You can do, instead of laying over, someone is lying underneath in child's pose, you could lay over a bolster, right? And one of the most important things when you're menstruating is that you shouldn't go upside down, because this reverses the flow of your menstrual blood, which then creates all kinds of other issues.
Complications.
So the main thing is when you're menstruating to not invert. This pose, well, the previous pose was wonderful to open the chest and open the belly and relieve cramping and so forth. This one, these two couples are doing 4 different poses that are excellent, or 3 different poses that are excellent. Supta Baddha Konasana, which the 2 women are doing, are wonderful for opening up the energy channels in the legs that correspond to the liver and kidneys, and these need a lot of opening to help cleanse and nourish the system for menstruation.
The next picture.
And the next picture is a close-up, and I wanted to show you this because this is a couple doing this. And first of all, I wanted to show the sandbags on the gentleman's legs. This can really help release the legs even more as they release and open. Wonderful opening through the belly. This helps release tightness and congestion in the legs and the liver and so forth. And again, you could do this laying over a bolster. And this pose you can do also leaning forward, which the woman is doing, and she's supporting her head with a block, although you could lay over a bolster. One of the most important things about the menstrual practice is that you're supported. Every pose you do, you're supported.
Right.
And you are letting go, relaxing, allowing your body to completely and utterly release and be supported. It's not a time for perfection, it's a time to let go.
Now here.
This is a version of Upavista Konasana, which is another incredibly beneficial pose for women of all ages. And again, one version coming forward, and some people are not this flexible, they couldn't lay down on the ground like that, so you put a bolster underneath you to rest. And then laying over, again, you could lay over a bolster, and this creates support and once again opens the belly to release any sort of cramping there, engages the inner leg lines, the spleen, liver, and kidney meridians, which will help release congestion and stagnation there, and therefore create a more easeful blood flow.
The next picture. That's
Yes, and this is a wonderful posture. You can see support here, you know, with blocks.
Right.
There's one block under the shoulder blades, there's one block under the head, and the students are laying with their legs just straight. You can also lay with the feet in Baddha Konasana, with the soles of the feet together. And this pose is wonderful for opening, again, the belly, getting the circulation and blood flow easeful, opening up the heart, because often during our menstrual cycle, you know, when we're menstruating, you know, we can be weepy or, you know, it's intense, and we need to create some space in the chest and heart to open to a deeper lung span, more oxygen, and also open the heart. And again, this is done with full support, full release of any tension or struggle in the body.
Next picture we see.
And this could be done when menstruating, although it may be too intense. You may want to do this towards the end of your cycle. This is a wonderful pose to do during the rest of the month. This is King Pigeon pose. It's with support here with the wall and the hands on the floor. The front leg is in that position that Baddha Konasana was. So it's opening the inner leg lines to release congestion in those
How long does one hold a pose like that?
It depends on the practitioner. Like the other poses that were restorative, you want to hold those for about 3 to 5 minutes. And you just release and let go.
Right.
This pose, most people are not going to be able to hold that for this long, maybe a minute or so. And the benefit with this one is that it also opens on the left leg, it's opening up the stomach meridian, opening up the quadriceps, and that helps create space in the pelvis for deeper breath. And in order to de-stress our minds and sort of balance our nervous systems, we all need to be taking deeper breaths. So this pose is wonderful for opening that, and as well as the chest, to get this buoyancy.
Do we have any other ones?
We have one more. This is Viparita Karani, which is a wonderful inversion. This pose you would not do when you're menstruating. After you finish your menstruating, you should wait about 3 days afterwards, and then inversion practice is absolutely wonderful. The rest of the month, inversions are incredibly beneficial for your cycle, for your blood flow, for bringing balance to your hormones, and giving you then an easeful menstrual cycle the next time through.
Right.
This one's lovely because it's with support. It's a wonderful prep for shoulder stand, which is, the queen mother of asanas. Incredibly beneficial for all the organs and thyroid, parathyroid, heart, circulatory system, reproductive system, everything. The benefit of this one is that it's easier to stay longer. And the yoga poses are more effective the longer you stay in them. So this inversion, you could stay with support. They've got a block underneath their pelvis. They could stay there easily for 3 to 5 minutes. Shoulder stand, which is, its sister pose, most people really struggle to stay there for 3 to 5 minutes. But in fact, you need to stay in an inversion for at least 3 minutes to receive the benefits of it. The reversal of the congested fluids in the legs and in the organs, and the incredible flush for the system. So
now together with these poses, there are also some mudras that can be used, correct?
There's some wonderful mudras.
Right. Now, first let's explain what a mudra is.
Yes. Mudras are the sacred hand positions that we do in yoga. And the most common one is this one, right? We do this for meditation. It helps focus the mind, Jnana Mudra. We have some...
Now, we have to say, it helps focus the mind. In other words, it's not just because we are holding the fingers like this, because when we are holding the position is always energy flowing in and out from our fingers. And by us actually manipulating that in and out flow, we can create changes in the body and also changes in our environment. So those mudras are not just that we're holding the fingers together. There is something specifically happening.
Very specific.
When we are doing that.
Exactly. It's like our energy channels come into the fingers. And so by accessing the fingers, we're able to connect to the deep energetic channels in our being. And mudra comes from the root mudra in Sanskrit, which means to bring joy.
Right.
And so they bring us into this place of cosmic consciousness, really, and bring it into our bodies and help shift our state from a negative state to a more positive state, which then invites more prana, or more vital life force into our bodies. So one of the wonderful ones to do is called Shakti Mudra. And you make this by, make a fist, and then, so you're covering everything, all your fingers with covering your thumb, and then you just take the ring finger and the pinky finger together, and then take the knuckles together. And this is a very simple mudra to do to increase the Shakti, or this feminine energy. Really located in the pelvis and the lower belly. And this helps deepen the breath. It actually helps expand the lower lobes of the lungs. It helps deepen the breath, so you get more oxygen per breath. So you take longer, slower breaths, which calms you down.
Right.
It calms your nervous system. So if you stay in this mudra for like 10 minutes, you'll get really calm, very peaceful. You'll feel your breath moving deeper in your belly. And this is a good mudra to do before you go to sleep. If you have insomnia, it's an excellent mudra to do. Right? So this is a wonderful one. There's another one which is great to do. You shouldn't do any mudras when you're menstruating.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
No mudras when you're menstruating.
Because you don't want the interfering energy to interfere with whatever you're doing.
Yeah, with your downward flow.
Your cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of our program.
Oh my gosh, that's so quick.
Right. I want to thank you very much for being with us again today.
Thank you.
I want to thank our viewers for being with us again today. See you next time.